Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. This is the Eagle Pass Independent School District's regular meeting. We're here at the District Service Center, and it is 5:52, and we call this meeting to order. First, we'll have Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Mijares, will you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Mijares. Now we will move to roll call. We have Ms. Hilda P. Martinez, Vice President present, Dr. Hector Alvarez, Secretary present, Ms. Glenna Purcell, Trustee present, Mr. Christopher Hiller, Trustee present, Mr. Victor E. Perry, Trustee present, Mr. Samuel Mijares, Superintendent of Schools present, Ms. Valerie Carrillo, our Attorney present, and myself, Jorge Barrera, present. And now we will move to Citizens Communications and Recognitions. We do have one Citizens Communication, Mr. Poncho Nevares.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
One is I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak, and I'll be brief. At the tail end of August, I'd sent a letter to each and every trustee about an issue that I had been looking at. Honestly, I've been looking at it since I was in the legislature, and the gist of the letter was the legislature finally adopting what's called famously the Tim Tebow rule. And what the Tim Tebow rule allows for is for a private school child that lives within the district to participate in extracurricular activities within the district that he resides in. There are states where it's compulsory, meaning the district doesn't have a choice. In Texas, that's not the case. Each and every district can adopt that. And so as I looked at it a little further, I realized that in the Texas Education Code, the definition of homeschool and private school are the same. In other words, a homeschool student is a private school student. There's no distinction for purposes of the Texas Education Code. And so I started to look at the opportunities I think that are missed by the school district in not allowing private school students to participate in extracurricular activities where the school doesn't offer them. And I'll give you an example. For instance, you've got, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I do not believe there are any private schools that offer preparatory education or high school within the district. And so that leaves us with one school that I believe offers up to the 7th and 8th grade, and that's Our Lady of Refuge. And I'll speak to that school because I'm familiar with it. And if there's another school and I'm missing it, I apologize, but I'm just not familiar with it. But Our Lady of Refuge does not offer band or track or anything above 7th grade. They offer extracurricular activities for 1st through 6th, but not 7th and 8th grade. And so when we look at what are called non-enrolled students under the Act, it's House Bill 547, non-enrolled students are defined as being primarily, but not exclusively, homeschooled, yet the statute defines homeschool as a private school. And so if a homeschool is a private school, the statute allows for private school students to participate. And in addition, any district that allows for the participation is given, if you will, $1,500 per activity. So if a child that's a non-enrolled child, that's a private school student, plays football, is on the chess team, and is in the band, the student would recover $4,500 from the state for the child's participation. And I don't know what is the daily allotment now? I don't even know what it is anymore. Is it over $8,000 per student? Yeah, and so if you think about it, you're getting a little over $8,000 for a child that you have to have in school from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, and include them in as many extracurricular activities as the child wants. And in this case, you have a child that you don't have to feed or sit in the classroom, and you get $1,500 for his participation in an extracurricular activity. If you look at it in terms of percentages, I think the school district benefits tremendously from that. And with respect to the residence requirements, it's the same. Any child that resides within the district and would apply for this has to meet the same residence requirement as any other student that applies to attend the school as a student. There's no exception in terms of the residence. In other words, if the child meets the requirements a child that you already have enrolled meets the requirements, another child wants to participate, they've got to meet the same requirements. There's no, exceptions for that. I believe that, and I looking up there, I see my classmate, two of my classmates actually, but Hector was my classmate from kinder all the way to high school, and we both went to Our Lady of Refuge. And I think we both would have benefited from being able to participate in junior high activities from the 7th and 8th grade, because in the end, the high school got us anyway, right? We ended up there, and I think we might have benefited from being able to participate at least 1 or 2 more years before. I think in its current form, there's probably about 20 students that are affected between the 7th and 8th grade. Like I said, you probably get them within 1 to 2 years. It's my belief, and I think the numbers will bear this out, that kids that graduate from Our Lady of Refuge disproportionately are participants at a high level in a lot of the activities. When I look at, just this past year, going back to the spring, looking at the starting lineups of the different sports teams, I could count at least 1 and sometimes up to 4 children that had been at Our Lady of Refuge. And so when you think about a graduating class in Our Lady of Refuge of about 30, and then a high school that has, close to 2,500 students, and then not counting, and I was just thinking about Eagle Pass High School, not CC Wynn, they're disproportionately represented in these activities already. I'd spoken to another parent that does not have a child at Our Lady of Refuge, and that parent made some comments about, what if that child takes my child's spot from me, because he shouldn't be there, he should be at Our Lady of Refuge. And my response to that is, I'm all about competition. Competition is competition. Coaches, activity directors will put the child that's best suited for the activity and the position they're supposed to be in. And my other comment was somewhat of a smart comeback is, well, do you want him to take the spot now, or do you want him to take it when he's a freshman? Because one way or the other, the kid's coming. And so,
Mr. Navarez,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. There's 1 minute left.
Okay. And 1 minute, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm wrapping it up. And so what I'd like is, one, for any board member to take this item up, because I think it's worth the board discussing, putting it on an agenda item and having the board discuss it. And I'm opening myself up to any questions from anybody, whether it's an administrator, further outside an activity director, or any other board members.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. We will now move to recognitions. Number 1, recognition of the 2023-2024 Graves Varsity Cheer Squad, led by sponsor Gabriela Camarillo, for placing first in the elementary intermediate division at the Winter Wonderland Fun Cheer Competition in New Braunfels, Texas on January 10th, 2024.
Good evening, Mr. President, distinguished members of the board, and of course, Superintendent Mijares. Thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you this evening. Our first recognition for tonight will be to recognize the Graves Elementary Tiger Cheer Squad under the direction of Gabriela Camarillo. Graves Tiger Cheer Team participated at Fun Cheer's Winter Wonderland competition in New Braunfels, Texas. The girls hit and rocked the mat and snagged the first place title in the elementary intermediate division. Way to go, Tigers, and keep bringing home those trophies. At this time, we invite the board and Mr. Mijares to come forward for photos. At this time, if there are any parents who'd like to take photos, this is your opportunity to do so now. You can come to the center to take your photos. Up next, we are proud to welcome the 45th annual EPISD Elementary UIL Champs Liberty Elementary. The Eagles conquered the UIL meet on Saturday, February 3rd with an outstanding 282 points earned, showing all of EPISD how wild those Eagles are about learning. Way to go, Eagles, and job well done. While we're setting up the students and the coaches, parents, you will have an opportunity once they're done setting up to come and take photos before we take our official one with iVision. So most of you already have your cameras out, but if you'd like to come forward to take a photo. And just a reminder that all of our photos are available online on our school district website. You can get them from the homepage, and they are free to be downloaded at all times. So you can get that one as well. And now, our final recognition for tonight is to recognize Eagle Pass High School's outstanding senior, Maria Fernanda Salinas. Marifed, grab hold. Marifed has grabbed hold of her future, and she's not letting go until she hits the pavement at Yale University. Tonight, we recognize this outstanding Eagle for not only being accepted, but receiving a full ride to her dream school, the prestigious Yale. Congratulations, Marifed, and as Yale's motto goes, Lux e Veritas. We hope you find your light and truth during your educational pursuit. If Marifed's parents are here, we invite you to join us up front. We invite you to join us in the front.
No, it's just a like marketing thing for like the general.
Oh,
They pointed out a minor typo to me on the consent item.
uh-huh. All right, moving on from recognitions, we have district reports and presentations. We're gonna take 1, 2, and 3 together. Is that right? Or 1, 2, 3, and 4? It's 1, 2, and 3, right? Okay. Everything good? That's good to hear. Any questions from the board? If not, We will go to item number 4, presentation of possible projects by Davis Powell, project architect, and Brian Parks from Hillis. Mr. Powell?
Pleasure to be here this evening to go over real quickly the Eagle Pass ISD track relocation report for the high school project. This project's been around probably coming close to a year now, and the idea was that we would consider taking the track located in the detention facility at the high school and relocate it to the softball field area. And you may remember this slide from way back last year, which kind of shows the three options that we considered. The first was where the current soccer field is located and upper softball fields. The second was down at the lower softball fields, and the third was kind of along the east side of the property. Once we got into studying the obstacles and the utilities and the points that would have to be addressed with this project, we began focusing specifically on this site at the soccer field and upper softball field, and this site, which is the two lower softball fields. So, where we've developed the project to at this point is that we have plans ready to go out to bid. We have what we are putting out as a base bid, which is the project that would be located at the soccer field area and the upper softball field. This project would include several issues. The first is the development of a retaining wall system, because we would have to cut into the hillside approximately 13 feet. In addition to that, we would be dealing with the power lines that go across that site, and we would have to be able to stabilize the poles that support the wires. And we would also have a clearance issue at this point of the track right here. That's pretty much where we have the most sag in the power lines. And at that point right there, we're looking at about 19 feet clearance below the power lines. So those two issues are the big issues that we're dealing with in regard to this site. Now, I think we addressed the retaining wall part of the problem relatively elegantly, because what it allows us to do is to kind of create a step-down retaining system that could actually serve as bleachers to the track facility. So that's what these lines are that you see right here. These red things are where the actual power poles themselves are. So you can see we cut our retaining wall around the power pole to allow stabilizing the power poles, but we also put in some bleacher seating here and bleacher seating here. We have an 8-lane track, synthetic track. We're big fans of the Hellas system, so Hellas is specified. in addition to that, you'd have a full-size practice soccer field or football field that would go in between. The two easternmost softball fields would still be left intact. The utilities that serve the softball fields would also be left intact. What we found was once we started getting into the utility issues, that we really wanted to move away from the existing utilities as much as possible because of the issues that created in trying to relocate those utilities. The other component of this project would be a 5,000 square foot building to replace the concession building and a little storage and restroom building that's in place there now. Currently, that building sits about right here. This square represents the 5,000 square foot building that we are proposing. Other components include the facilities for pole vault and long jump. So we're actually taking the third field that originally thought we could leave and reutilize. And because of this component, we decided it was in the best interest of the whole to go ahead and include the track components of pole vault and long jump where the third softball field would have gone. Lastly, we're including some additional parking that would serve and kind of clean up the parking area around the daycare and the learning center and the nurses building as well. So with this all taken into consideration, this is our base bid for our current project that we're projecting to be developed for approximately $4.9 million. Any questions on that one before I move to the alternate? Yeah.
So is the SAG is
Yeah, the only pole is here, and then the reason it sags so much is because the next pole is way over here. And so they've done like a really long span with their wires. You can see that a pole here, but they kind of left that one out.
but we're good with the clearance.
Yeah, if 19 feet is good, then we're good with clearance. It is the same that's there now. But we are currently dealing with that. We're setting the grade right at that point.
Mr. Paul, so that bid or that price range is for the whole project,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Parking lot and then the changing rooms and all that?
Yes.
I think when we were looking at the different areas, I mean, we kind of looked at that area specifically because it would change the whole aesthetics of that area. Where right now, I mean, it's mostly dirt and hill, and it's not up to where I think it could be. Aesthetically, it would change that whole street.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and the
It
view
would
and
definitely do that.
so issues with drainage and stuff like that as far as
They are built into this as well. Yeah, there's a perimeter drainage system around the whole track facility. It's taken underground and then will discharge into the little canal there. Anything else before I move on to the alternate bid? So, as an alternate to the base bid, we're going to be asking contractors to consider locating the track on where the lower two softball fields are located. From an engineering standpoint, this is the more efficient location to install the track. We are taking into consideration the fact that that is a low area and is prone to having water within it. We're actually building up the track itself, I think, by 3 feet. So it's going to be 3 feet higher than anything that's currently there right now to get it up and above where water is currently standing. The things that this location introduces that the other one does not is we would have to relocate the batting cages. So this square up here represents the new location for the batting cages. We are keeping the primary field here and the secondary field here. So one of the benefits of this particular solution is your better softball fields are remaining in place. We're still developing some additional parking here as a part of this project, cleaning up the parking lot there, serving the training center and the nurses building. And then this is where the 5,000 square foot changing room facility would be right here in this configuration. So the kids would come to this building and then go through a new system of sidewalks that serves the softball fields or the track right here. Again, we are incorporating some bleachers to deal with the grade transitions, just to make the hill a little bit softer and allow spectators to have a place to sit while the track events are going. So these are the two options that are prepared to be put out to bid. They have not gone out to bid yet, kind of awaiting any kind of comments that we get from this meeting. You will notice that the estimated cost for this project is a little bit less than the others, and that's because there's just not as much dirt work that's involved with this solution as opposed to the other.
Mr. Paul, on this one, on this diagram, what's on the upper left? I guess that's the west side, the upper
Up
corner?
here?
Yeah, that stays the same?
Pretty much staying the same.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see. If we can get a copy of
Sure.
that.
I will provide it to Mr. Salinas for distribution.
On the first one, how many softball fields will remain? 2?
2. Yeah, both solutions have 2 softball fields.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Yeah, just a comment, Mr. Paul. Just, I mean, with this type of project, and I know how long we've been kind of, going back and forth and looking at the different things. It's really good to see that, these steps are kind of being covered because, we wouldn't have wanted to go through something and then, come up with surprises.
Right.
But I think overall, community-wise, school-wise, and how things, I think the aesthetics more than anything, because it'll just give it a big uplift. Like I mean, it's a facelift to that whole area, and it's in the middle of a lot of residential areas, So I just want to thank you for taking the time to do
This
this.
has been a very interesting project, to say the least, and I kind of share your opinion that because of the site itself, that you are starting, you have the city pool across the street, you have the city park, we're getting ready to do a new gym for the city just down the street, so
That's right.
this is really becoming kind of a center for the city to come and gather and do fun outdoor events. So I
Yeah.
think this would certainly enhance that corner.
And you're
as well.
talking about the boys club area, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again for your time, unless there's any more.
Just a question on potential parking area with either.
Well, I mean, this one, you still have this whole area that's not really being utilized other than for a practice soccer field, but you're going to pick that component up right there.
Will we be taken away from the parking area right now where the students park?
No, we're staying away. That is all happening up in here and then along the
Perfect.
street.
Okay, that was my
So,
concern.
yeah, we're staying away from that.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Pro.
Thank you.
So,
Good evening, Board Administrators. I'm Brian Parks from Ellis Construction. Tonight I have with me Kevin Swank, our president of our track and tennis division, and we were asked to come up here and discuss some possible options of existing track area and the detention area below the high school. And we have a few ideas that Kevin's come up with that alleviate some of the water, but as much flow as that area covers, it's almost impossible to keep off all the water off of that if you have a 10-year or 15-year storm. And Kevin's here to address some of that.
Thank you, everyone. I also brought a PowerPoint presentation for you all to see this evening. A little less dramatic. Great options, by the way. I think those two options are absolutely fantastic and give you guys some opportunities. So what we were asked to do was look at what would it take to build a track in that existing retention area. And by the way, it's not easy. And most of it because, you know, as the community continues to grow, there's more and more impermeable cover, houses, roads, parking lots, everything, and it's just creating more and more water that eventually gets funneled down into that low area. So we looked at, okay, how can we have that water flow through without raising up? Because you have water coming, really hard to see from this, but this is your existing trench where all the water comes. So you have up above, you have everything from the city flowing down, all of the houses, plus you have additional flow coming from this hillside between the houses, and then of course
Excuse
you
me,
have water flowing.
excuse me. He is referring to where the track is right now.
Correct.
Over on the,
Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
This is where the track is right now, and we are looking for a third option.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, you know, with all the construction, it's a lot more water coming into this site. So instead of building it up on the existing site, instead of building a wall all the way around the existing site, which we still believe is necessary, one of the things that we thought of was, and this requires the city to get involved because that's their property, that trench that goes along the side of the track. So what if we brought the city in and asked them to lower that so that we create more capacity for water? You have, again, water coming from the streets, water coming from the homes. It all goes down and circulates beyond the baseball field in that retention pond, which, by the way, if any of you have had a chance to walk down there over the last few months or year or so, it continues to gather debris. So where 20 years ago, it may have taken a great deal more water than it does today. So our thought was, what if we lowered this trench, this concrete trench that goes between the homes and the track? Perfect, even better. If we lowered that trench and then also lowered the retention pond to the left of that baseball field. Because again, if you walk down there, you're going to see a great deal of debris in that retention area. All of this, oh, thanks, gosh. This is fancy, I'm not used to this. Which button is it? Red button, thank you. Okay, so we have water coming from all of these homes over here and this street. Everything flows down from this upper field, very steep hill. It goes around the track on both sides, but doesn't do a very good job of going around the track on both sides because there's so much debris over here and so much debris all the way through here. And this retention area, which probably may have been several feet lower when it was originally constructed, is now full of debris. The only obstacle that we face is right here, where the water has to actually go uphill to get into this concrete drain and then go past the cemetery and eventually end up in the Rio Grande. But our thought was, why not see if we can get the city involved to reconstruct that trench between the houses and the track, lower that several feet, lower the retention pond several feet to create much more capacity than we currently have. Because it doesn't rain like it used to. Now it rains, 10 inches at a time rather than you get a sprinkle every few months. So we need a place to store all of that water. Down on this end where this concrete retaining wall is to keep the water from flowing so quickly, we'd probably need to install a pump so that when the water gets to a certain level, they can raise it up. We don't want all of that water flowing through there all at the same time, because then we're going to flood the neighbors, and obviously we want to avoid that. The other thing that we thought was, as we come down this really steep hillside, we're going to need a retaining wall here, and we're also going to need a retaining wall on this side. In case the water does raise up, it's not going to flood onto the track, and any water that comes down this really steep hillside, we're going to capture it before it gets to the track and install pipes across the field so that it gets everything out of the way as quickly as possible. Again, the issue here is you have water coming this way and you have water coming this way. So as the water comes down that hill, it stops that water from flowing freely down that concrete trench. And as it doesn't flow freely, it starts to back up, and that's why we're having that issue on the track. The track itself, believe it or not, is in great shape. There's very few cracks in the asphalt for this age. The surface obviously is impacted with years and years of mud from all of the floods. But in reality, it's in really good shape. We just have to re-divert that water to get it away from there. And I think we've put together a proposal that covers all of that except for what the city would need to do to augment the drainage on the side. And I think that proposal's been submitted. Does everyone have a copy of that? No? Yes?
We have received the proposal.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, and it's at about 1.9 million is the estimate at this point.
Yes, and Rolly, can you email them
Sure,
the proposal
absolutely.
and then email them the other proposals from
The other information that
Yes.
Mr. Powell has as
Yes.
well. Sure, absolutely.
So again, this particular option is really contingent upon involving the city to help with that, lowering that drainage channel, lowering that retention pond, so that there's more capacity for that water as it enters the site. Our proposal includes all of the construction except for that retention area and the surfacing, leaving pretty much everything else as it is, the high jump, the pole vault, the long jump, all of that's pretty much staying exactly where it is.
The city would probably come in and say they'll have to look at engineering and see if lowering will actually help.
I'm sure that they would. I don't think that they would just say,
Yeah.
absolutely, let's go do that, but yeah.
I wouldn't. So that would be kind of the
This
first.
proposal really requires involvement from the city.
And just to update the board, I did have lunch with the mayor last week and debriefed them on this project, so that see if the city can do some type of, in-kind or some type of a cost or joint venture with the district, so that we can, if this is an option the board wants to take, we can consider it.
So the 1.9 million budgeted cost covers what exactly on your part?
It covers everything from the retaining walls that we intend to build alongside the track inward. It just doesn't cover the retention area.
But you won't be raising elevation or nothing on the track itself?
I'm sorry, could you
You
say
won't
that?
be raising any of the elevation at track itself?
It was not our
Just a
intention to.
retaining wall?
Correct. Using the existing elevations that are there.
And lowering the canal itself on the top part, would that be part of that, your
No,
cost?
that's just the
As-
field.
As we're coming down this hillside here, yes, this would be part of ours.
The city would be picking up the lowering the channel and
Yeah.
doing the rest of the infrastructure. So,
Okay.
Any
And
other questions?
Was there an estimate as far as what the city would have to contribute to on their part?
We have not. We didn't do any borings or anything. I know there's concrete on a substantial portion of that drainage channel. We don't know what's in the existing retention area, if other things were dumped there years ago, so I don't have an estimate for that at this point.
and
Okay.
Thank
other
you for your
questions?
time.
No. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Powell and Mr. Parks. We will now move to action items. Number one, consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve contract between Eagle Pass Independent School District and Linebarger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson LLP to conduct appeal of the property value study finding as conducted by the Comptroller's Office. Mr. Mijares?
Yes, this is a contract so that we can hire a firm so that they can appeal the process for the appraisal district so that we don't lose, it'll probably be around $3 million, $3 to $4 million. So I think that as we talk to the attorneys, that it is very feasible for them to win the appeal. So as part of the process, the district has to contract with them because we are the ones that, we're the organization that really contributes to the appraisal district.
Any questions? Approximate cost, do you know?
Ismael, cost, it's a percentage wise, but is it 10% or 7%?
I think it says 10%.
You hear me? Yes, it's gonna be about between 200 and 250,000. It's gonna be based on a contingency, so it'll be 10% of whatever we recover from the state funding. And that's the range that is usually what they charge.
If not, we lose about
It-
4
it-
million?
It'll be, if we do get local value, they'll calculate our state funding and then we'll have an amount. So we would have to see what amount, how much our values are gonna go down by, but it can range between 2.6 up to $3 million. It's a range. But, yeah, that's the way it's gonna be done. And, we looked at all the different attorneys and we feel more comfortable with the ones that are being selected.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
so moved.
So moved by trustee Hiller. Do we have a second? Second by trustee Purcell. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. We'll move to consent items. We will take 1 through 7. Consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve the minutes of the January 15, 2023 regular board meeting. Consider and take appropriate action on the approval and adoption of Resolution 2023-2024-07, Texas House Bill 1525. Consider and take appropriate action to approve a Resolution 2024 of the board regarding the designate non-business days under the Public Information Act for the 2024 calendar year. Consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve the procurement method of competitive sealed proposal and the ranking criteria for the LDC and ECC parking lot addition project in accordance with board policy CV, CVB, and state guidelines. Consider and take appropriate action on the approval to accept a donation of 14,078 solar eclipse glasses from the Bucky's Totality Over Texas School Program. Consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve a donation from Mr. Poncho Nevares, attorney at law, to the Eagle Pass High School Fieldhouse. Consider and take appropriate action on the request to amend the general budget fund. And I do have a revision to resolution typo error where it says SISD to change to EPISD on number 2. Do we have a motion to accept the consent items?
So moved.
We have a motion by trustee Hiller. Do we have a second? Second by Dr. Alvarez. Any other questions? If not, all in favor? All opposed, motion passes. Please thank all the donations to all who donated on behalf of the board. There we go. Thank you all. Now we will move to closed session. The Board of Trustees of the Eagle Pass Independent School District will convene in closed session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to deliberate upon the following matters. Item number 8, number 1, the board will hear the request to hire personnel to fill vacancies pursuant to TGC 551.074, and the board will hear the district-wide intruder audit report findings pursuant to TGC 551.076. Do I have a motion to convene in closed session? A motion by Dr. Alvarez. Do we have a second? Second by Trustee Martinez. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. The time is 6:46, and the date is Tuesday, February 13, 2024, and the Board of Trustees is now in closed session, and no action will be taken in closed session. All right. The time is 7:15 p.m. The date is Tuesday, February 13, 2024, and the Board of Trustees of the Eagle Pass Independent School District is now in open session, and we will move to item number 9. The board will consider and take appropriate action on the request to hire personnel to fill vacancies pursuant to TGC 551.074. Yes.
Mr. President, I move to approve the request to hire personnel to fill vacancies as discussed in closed session pursuant to TGC 551.074.
We have a motion by trustee Perry. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Hiller. Questions? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Unanimous. We will now move to correspondence and information. Mr. Mijares?
Yes, we have spring break from March 11th through the 15th. That means that we're meeting after spring break. So the March regular board meeting will be March 19th, right after spring break. There's no announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Mijares. And now we will move to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by trustee Martinez. Do we have a second? Second by trustee Purcell. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned, 7:17.